Okay, when I say the word pirate, what pops into your head? I'm guessing it's something like an eye patch, maybe a parrot on the shoulder, a treasure map with a big X on it, right? It's this huge romantic image we all have. But what if I told you most of that is just a story? Let's dive in and find out the truth behind the legend. So, where did that image even come from? Well, a lot of it wasn't from, historical documents. It was actually cooked up by artists, especially guys like the American illustrator Howard Pyle. His paintings were just so dramatic, so full of color. And that look you see right here, that became the look, the blueprint for every swashbuckling pirate captain we think of today. Okay, so if that's the fiction, what's the fact? Who were the real people behind the legends? The ones actually raising that black flag and sailing the seas? Yeah, it's time to meet the real pirates. All right, first up, let's talk about that myth. The one that we all know and, let's be honest, kind of love.
The stories always paint them in one of two ways, right? Either they're these daring, swashbuckling heroes, or they're just vicious, brutal thieves. But the really interesting thing, the truth is, they were often both. The reality was way, way more complicated than a simple Hollywood movie.
And to really get to that reality, we have to start with the word pirate itself. We kind of use it as this catch-all term, but it's not that simple. There were actually a bunch of different kinds of people reading ships out there. I mean, the basic definition is super simple, right? A pirate is just someone who steals stuff at sea. But trust me, that simple idea is hiding a whole world of complexity.
Okay, let's break this down. See that top line? A pirate in the purest sense, they answered to nobody. They were in it for themselves, period. But then you have a privateer. Now, this is interesting. They were basically legal pirates. They had a government license, a piece of paper that said, go ahead, attack our enemies' ships. Then you get more specific. You have buccaneers, who are all about raiding Spanish ships in the Caribbean, and corsairs, who are doing their thing over in the Mediterranean.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Whether you were a pirate or a hero totally depended on whose side you were on. For Europeans, those Barbary corsairs from North Africa, oh, they were the worst kind of pirates. But if you were in North Africa, those same guys were heroes, legal privateers fighting for their country. It was all about perspective. Okay, so we're getting a better picture of who these guys were. But what was the goal? What were they risking their necks for? Was it really all about that buried treasure we hear about?
I mean, come on, you know this image. The big, heavy wooden chest just spilling over with gold coins. The old, crinkled map with a giant X on it. We can thank stories like Treasure Island for that. It completely cemented this idea in our minds.
And look, the treasure part wasn't fake. These guys could get incredibly rich, like overnight millionaires. They'd capture ships loaded with gold coins, silver pieces of 8, you name it. But here's the part the stories leave out. They almost never buried it. Nope. They spent it as fast as they could on pleasure, on ease, just living it up for the moment. The pirate captain Bartholomew Roberts, a pretty famous one, he put it perfectly. He said that for a regular sailor, life was all about thin commons, low wages, and hard labor. But in his life, the pirate life, it was plenty and satiety, pleasure and ease, liberty and power. See? It wasn't just about the gold. It was about escaping a horrible life for one where you had freedom and power. That was the real treasure.
So when we think of pirates, we almost always think of the Caribbean, right? The golden age of piracy. But get this, piracy has been around for way, way longer than that. It's an ancient profession.
Just look at this thing. This isn't some drawing from the 1700s. This is an ancient Greek drinking bowl. It's over 2,500 years old. And what's on it? A pirate ship ramming a merchant vessel. I mean, that's incredible proof right there. Piracy is literally as old as shipping. As soon as people started moving goods by sea, someone else was there to steal it. And way back then, the line between being a pirate and being a soldier was, well, there wasn't much of one. Raiding other people's ships and towns was just kind of a normal part of warfare. It wasn't until big empires and city-states started building actual navies that they tried to clamp down on it to protect their own trade. There's this amazing story that captures this perfectly. Alexander the Great supposedly captures a pirate and asks him why he terrorizes the seas. And the pirate just fires back, I am called a pirate because I do it in a small ship. Because you do it with a great fleet, you are called an emperor. Wow. The only difference was the size of their army. Okay, so this all brings us to the final showdown, right? The romance versus the reality. And the reality could be pretty brutal. Let's not sugarcoat this. The violence and cruelty, that wasn't just random. It was a business strategy. Pirates worked hard to build a reputation for being absolutely terrifying. Why? Because if the crew of a ship you're about to attack believes that fighting back means they'll be tortured and killed, well, they're probably not going to fight back. They'll just surrender. It was cold and it was calculated. And this right here, this says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the fantasy, the dashing gentleman pirate in his fine clothes. And on the other side, the reality for most of them. An iron cage called a gibbet, where they'd hang your body after execution and just leave it there to rot, as a warning to everyone else. That was the end of the line.
Even their most famous symbol, the Jolly Roger, that skull and crossbones, we think of it as a flag of adventure. It wasn't. It was a tool of psychological warfare. When that flag went up, it was meant to scare you witless. The message was crystal clear. Give up now, without a fight, or prepare for the absolute worst.
So that leaves us with this big question, right? If the reality was so brutal, so violent, and the ending was usually so grim, why do we still love the idea of the pirate so much? I guess maybe it's because deep down, no matter how brutal it was, that fantasy of just chucking the rules, sailing off into the sunset, and grabbing a life of total freedom and power for yourself, well, that's a fantasy that's just too good to let go of.